Hi guys, welcome to week 2 of World History 1. We're really getting into our big content now. We worked on skills last week and now we're getting into our first major topic, which is prehistory, prehistoric civilizations, and kind of what's going on with early man, the emergence of civilization. And then our next SOL will be all about civilization and what is a civilization and what makes that up. So this is World History 1 SOL 2. And we'll be looking at history and prehistory. And these terms are very important, especially the word prehistory. So we'll go over vocabulary terms as we go along. So what is prehistory? Prehistory is, in essence, basically history before there is written record. Okay, so we actually kind of distinguish between the terms prehistory and history. Prehistory, again, is before written record, and then history is after written record. And historians study both prehistory and history. Although I would say that archaeologists are more often, and anthropologists, they do a lot of work in the prehistory. So man only learned to write about 5,000 years ago. So it was around 3,000, 2,500 BC or BCE. And we'll talk about that. The Sumerians were the first to develop the written word. And so that's when officially recorded history starts, when people start writing stuff down. Now we'll talk about some cave paintings and art. And so art is not considered to be a written record. Okay, so we want an actual language, written things down. And humans were around a long time before we actually started writing things down. So again, our key vocabulary word for this is prehistory, before written record. So who studies this history and prehistory? Well, it's us, historians, right? And so we write and teach about the past. And a lot of our knowledge comes from artifacts. So an artifact is anything that was made or used by a human. So tools, okay? Like think about like a stone knife or bow and arrow. That is made by man, okay? Think about, maybe you've seen, for example, if I was to go to the beach and I was to find a shark's tooth. A shark's tooth by itself is not an artifact. But if I found a shark's tooth that was on a necklace, then that now becomes an artifact because it was made and used by a human. Okay, do you understand the difference? An artifact has to be made or used by a human. So we're looking at clothes and tools and things that they use in their kitchen, all of these kind of things. Any kind of objects, coins. It could be a book, okay, because that's made by a human. Written records, art, all of this are examples of artifacts. And if you think about this, before we write things down, think about how much harder it must be to know about people when they weren't writing things down. Then we're completely 100% dependent upon artifacts. And remember that artifacts, if it's made or used by a human, it's going to decay. And so that makes it even more important and harder to find out about the early peoples. Here's some examples of some artifacts. So we've got tools and weapons. These are cave paintings. You've got pottery. It could be an ancient monument. So like that Stonehenge on the bottom that's made by humans. Actual human remains that anthropologists would study to determine more about them. And jewelry is another great example. So these are things that are made or used by humans. So as historians, we're looking at basically two types of sources, which you reviewed in the first unit. So this is a little review, so we should know what primary sources and secondary sources are. So primary sources is that eyewitness first-hand account. And the secondary source is more like a textbook, something that we're reading about afterwards. So secondary source examples, we've got encyclopedias, Wikipedia. These are like this book about Cleopatra, somebody wrote many years after Cleopatra was ever alive, world history textbook. Archaeologists of course study the past, and we know that archaeologists are really important. If you look at even that first word, the archae, remember it means ancient, and so we're talking about the study of artifacts. People are no longer alive. Archaeologists will look at fossils, and so those are a different type of archaeologists. Like we're not so concerned about dinosaurs and stuff, but there are types of archaeologists who study that. For us, we're focused on those who are looking at human remains and past settlements. Fossils are those of living organisms, and then artifacts, remember, are anything that's made or used by a human. So here's some examples. I showed you in your other video, where I had done some digging, but I have not done anything in kind of ancient history. Now, how do we actually determine how old something is? Well, we do that through radiocarbon dating. So radiocarbon dating actually is discovering the decay of something. So anything that was once living has carbon in it. And once something starts to die, it releases a radioactive material called carbon-14 or C14. And archaeologists can look at how much something has decayed and then basically go backwards, okay, to determine the age. Now, the age can be pretty broad, and the older something is, the harder it is to get like an exact date. But radiocarbon dating is a pretty fascinating scientific thing that can give us pretty accurate within the closer it is, but some things that are like thousands of years ago, those things are a little bit harder to get as accurate. So as we're looking at early humans, today we are considered to be Homo sapiens, and the earliest humans were found in East Africa. All right, now we are going to talk about evolution and earliest humans. Now, I want to say this from the beginning. I really like when I get to teach this in person. It's a little bit hard to kind of do a video and to talk about these kind of conversations. I know that many of you do not believe in evolution, and instead you believe in intelligent design. Intelligent design is that God created man, okay? Now, you do not have to believe in evolution. You do not have to believe in intelligent design. I'm going to teach you this scientific theory, okay, which you do have to know for your SOL test. And one of the things that I always tell my students is that even if you don't believe in something, it is really neat and good to actually understand and learn about the other. So it's good if you believe in evolution to learn about intelligent design so you can argue their points. And it's good if you believe in intelligent design to learn about evolution so you can argue their points. Okay, I am going to talk about the flaws of evolution and why some people disagree with it, but we are going to talk about both sides because I always believe it is important to talk about both sides. And of everything that we talk about this year, evolution is probably the most controversial thing. All right, so based on science and evolution belief, humans emerged in East Africa. Now, if you believe in biblical creation and you believe in intelligent design, man would have begun in Mesopotamia, which is still here in this same area. Okay, so the Garden of Eden, it describes that one of the boundaries was the Tigris River, and so that is in Mesopotamia in the Middle East today. This is where we found the earliest human remains. Okay, there is a third option where evolution and intelligent design can come together. And if you're interested in hearing that, set up an office hour with me and we can talk a little bit more about that. So today we are considered to be Homo sapien sapiens. Okay, so we're going to talk about how we got to that and what all of that means. All right, so hominids. Hominids are basically humans, okay? Hominids are the type of animals that are human-like creatures, okay? And so to be an hominid, you need to be bipedal, which means that you walk on 2 feet. You must be upright. And there's several different kinds of hominids. And we, Homo sapiens sapiens, are considered to be the last and only humans alive. So the earliest hominids, the first one is here, hominids. This is Australopithecus. Now, this is supposed to be the first hominid that actually walked upright. Now, remember, hominids are humans or human-like creatures. So Australopithecus, some people have said that Australopithecus is the missing link. So let me explain to you real quickly what the missing link is. And if some of this is going over your head, that's fine. This is a little deep when we start to talk about evolution. So we've got kind of the idea that humans evolved from man. But we have not ever found a skeleton that can show that exact link from monkey to man. Some people believe that Australopithecus is that missing link, okay? Because Australopithecus did walk upright, could climb into trees, okay? But and is also the first to have an opposable thumb. So what exactly is an opposable thumb? This. This is an opposable thumb. So your thumb is pretty amazing and can do all kinds of things, something that monkeys cannot do. Australopithecus, most of what we know about them is based on a skeleton called Lucy. And so when they found her, there was a very popular Beatles song at the time called Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I won't sing it for you right now, but you could Google it. It's a great song. So they called her Lucy, and Lucy was the most complete skeleton that they'd ever found at that time period. Now, she had 26 bones. Now, that's kind of crazy, right? We're thinking that's mostly complete. Well, she's considered to be at that time. So like this, we see this image here with this hairy little friend here. This is a recreation of what we think that Lucy's people would have looked like. Okay, so there's no proven connection between Australopithecus and us, man. But this was a hominid because they did walk upright, and they lived in Africa, and they were from about 4 million years ago that we think that they existed. Okay. All right, our next one is Homo habilis. Homo habilis means, Homo is like human, okay? Homo can mean two meanings. Homo can mean same, okay? And then Homo can mean human. So Homo habilis is man or human with ability. If you look at habilis, ability. So he lived about 2 million years ago. He's in Eastern Africa. So of all this we talked about so far, the most important thing you need to remember is that hominids are human or human-like creatures, and that the earliest humans were found in Africa, okay? So you could think of him as like the handyman, but man with ability, and he did basic tools for cutting, okay, and that's kind of what he did. Now notice he did not live at the same time period as Australopithecus, so that was Lucy and her family were older. After Homo habilis came Homo erectus, and that means he's erect. He stands upright, okay? So this is, we're finally getting a man that walks, all right? Now, under evolution, we are direct descendants. It's from Homo habilis to Homo erectus, then to Homo sapiens. So we are direct descendants from this man who lived about 1.6 million years ago, if you believe in evolution. He walked fully upright on 2 legs, bipedal, was the first to use fire. Was pretty adaptable and fairly intelligent. He made some pretty advanced tools, and they were the first people to actually move outside of Africa. And they went into northern Africa and then into Asia and into Europe. So they're going to start moving around. We have found their descendants in lots of different places. So these are really the guys that start to look more like us that we would kind of recognize as humans. Then comes the Neanderthals. So we always hear a lot about Neanderthals. Neanderthals are actually separate from Homo sapiens. The Neanderthals are first Homo sapiens. They kind of intermarry with some other groups of people, and they would be our ancestors. You will find some people who will argue that Neanderthals maybe aren't exactly related to us. There's a bigger discussion that was the Cromagnon man, because Cromagnon man does not seem to be related to us at all. He may possibly could have either just been conquered by the Neanderthals or possibly... Okay, so Neanderthal man either intermarried with Cromagnon or just like wiped him out. But we found these Neanderthals, which are pretty advanced humans that are found near Germany and along different places. They've found in present-day Turkey. They really adapted to kind of the cold climate. They made skins from animals. They built shelters. These are the guys we might have seen the cave paintings with. They were pretty big, large muscles. They have pretty thick bones, and they buried their dead, which is significant because this is where we start to see the beginning of culture. You care for your dead. If you're burying them, we believe in an afterlife. And so we start to see religious beliefs for the first time. They also use stone tools, and this is going to be important because we're going to be talking about the difference between Paleolithic, Neolithic, and these are our guys who are the old Stone Age, okay? So really, the kind of, when you think about, you see stories about Iceman or the kind of Frozen Man or things like that, that's what we're talking about, Neanderthals. And they would have been found in Europe and in the Middle East. So Cromagnon is the guy that we really don't know what happened to him. He did seem to be kind of smart, like he actually had a spoken language and everything, not just kind of grunting with people. but they just disappear. They have a little different facial features. Like this one is a kind of nicer looking Cromagnon. You usually see like a bigger forehead, things like that. But they disappear. We don't see their traits. So somehow they either just intermarried into the Neanderthals, or they just were wiped out by the Neanderthals because they weren't as strong as the Neanderthals. Eventually that leads us to the people who really look like us. Okay, so Homo sapiens, which in essence means kind of like wise man. Okay, and they did the cave paintings. They lived alongside with the Neanderthals, who either kind of intermarry, as most people think. Some historians say that they vanish, they go away. So there's a lot of different kind of understandings. And why is that? Well, we don't have the written record, and we're looking at partial skeletons. Like, we're not looking at a whole lot, especially the older things are. You're not getting really full skeletons, and so it's hard to make and figure out what exactly happened to everyone. These guys, though, start moving everywhere kind of in the world. And they're the only remaining hominid today because Homo sapiens are us. We are Homo sapiens sapiens. So you can see here where everybody moved, kind of the idea that we're starting here in Africa, and then they would have crossed the land bridge here. That would have been, you could come across here, and even today you can walk across from Russia into Alaska, and then they would have come down into North and South America. So you'll notice as we go through the year, when we're talking about civilizations, like the earliest civilizations are here, where the earliest humans were, and the civilizations in the Americas are later than all the others. So how did they survive? This is a big thing. How did these people make a living? They were hunter-gatherers, and their survival was completely dependent upon what was available. They followed and lived near water sources. So a lot of early civilizations are going to develop around rivers. And they hunted and gathered. And they're going to get to be better hunters. It's going to take a while. But they would follow the herds looking for water and places to live. And they were completely dependent upon their environment. And then everything's going to change when they suddenly develop agriculture and we can stop moving around. All right, I did say that I would take a few minutes to kind of talk about what could possibly be some problems with evolution. And so evolution is a theory, but it is important to understand that in science, theories are pretty important. Like, it takes a lot to get to a law, but if you're a theory, you've already been tried and tested a lot. So some of the problems when we think about evolution is that radiocarbon dating is not super accurate past 60,000 years old. And so when we're saying that something is millions of years old, that is an issue. Like, how accurate is radiocarbon dating? Again, as archaeologists, we have limited things to work with, limited artifacts. A lot of the skeletons are not complete. Like I told you, Lucy had 26 bones in her, and that makes it really hard to make guesses about her. So that's what archaeologists are doing. They're making best guesses. There's only a small number of bones and small number of skeletons that have been found, and so we're making a lot of theories and guesses based on those. So dates are approximate, not exact. So these are just some things to kind of keep in mind as you're thinking about evolution, that yes, there's still a lot of disagreements, and I'm telling you, this is probably the most controversial thing that we'll talk about all year. There are people right now in your class who are like, nope, it's intelligent design, God created us, and there's people who are like, nope, it's science, Big Bang, bang, man was created through evolution. So we can be on both sides of the fences, and it's good to understand kind of both sides. And like I said, there is a way to marry the two, science and religion. So if you ever want to have that discussion, feel free to set up an office hour with me. Now, we're going to move from this to what I think is way more interesting for early man. We're going to talk about civilizations, like these people living, all the technology and things that they found, and that's going to be in our next lesson. So have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.